Right now, today, the last couple of days, if your head's spinning as a Vikings fan, you're probably not alone. You're probably pretty excited. It's already been a busy week. It's just Tuesday, so we asked our Ahmad Hicks to stop by and talk to us about, Ahmad, these signings, these non-signings, a lot going on here. How are you feeling today on this Tuesday?
Optimistic. Feel pretty good. I think the Vikings did a good job staying away from the skill players and all the flashy objects and kind of beefing up their offensive and defensive line. So definitely feel a lot better than I did yesterday at the start of free agency.
All right. Well, can we start hot off the presses here? Quarterback, it sounds like Daniel Jones, who we had kind of in the wings here, is out. Is that right? He's out. So McCarthy,
he just
our only QB on the roster.
It just came out. Adam Schefter said that he's going to be heading to the Indianapolis Colts to back up Anthony Richardson, who was a former first-round pick. I don't know if you know, but Anthony Richardson kind of dealt with some baggage last season, pulling himself from a game in the fourth quarter because he was tired. Then he eventually got benched for Joe Flacco. Then Joe Flacco didn't play well enough, so he went there. But for Daniel Jones, that's a chance for him to play. He can beat out Anthony Richardson, certainly. So if he has a good camp, he may very well be a starting quarterback. Whereas here in Minnesota, I think it was solidified that he would have been the number 2 had he come back. J.J. McCarthy probably would have been the number 1 quarterback. And I think Daniel Jones being a first-round pick, I think he wanted an opportunity to play. So that's why he's gone. So now the Vikings have to find a backup quarterback, someone who can do a good job in case J.J. McCarthy goes down. But it looks like it's McCarthy's job right now.
Okay. And what does the landscape look like right now for possible QBs to come in that supporting role?
There's a lot of available veteran free agent quarterbacks. You just kind of have to pick your poison. And what do you want? Anybody can come in and run Kevin O'Connell's system. They just have to have a good arm and able mind to be able to make decisions quickly. But right now, it's funny because I was talking to some of my buddies earlier today, and they're like, "Who do you bring in?" I said, "Well, you want to bring in a guy who's not going to be having JJ look over his shoulder. So maybe that's a Gardner Minshew, maybe that's a Jacoby Brissett. I mean, who knows? But there's a lot of good veteran quarterbacks, who can come in and win you a couple of ball games if something were to happen to JJ.
Kirk Cousins?
No, stay away from him.
Is that a personal opinion, or is that it's not ever going to happen?
No, the Falcons have been pretty clear that they're not letting him go. I mean, they just gave him $90 million guaranteed last year. So they would be silly to let him go where he wants to go and still be on the hook for $40 million this year. So no, Kirk Cousins probably not a feasible option for the Vikings at this point.
Can I throw one more at you? And I think you know what's coming. Aaron Rodgers.
Dan Orlovsky said it best on ESPN earlier today. Aaron Rodgers comes with a lot, whether that's a lot of baggage, a lot of expertise, whatever. But what Dan Orlovsky said is, do not bring Aaron Rodgers to the Minnesota Vikings. Do not let him get inside that locker room because he is a lot to handle. And I think when you think about the Vikings and their team that made them successful last year, they play for one another. They didn't have a ton of egos in that locker room. Everybody was a team first player, where I think we all know Aaron Rodgers, he's a me first guy. We all know that. So I think bringing him into this culture that Kevin O'Connell has built, I think would be a terrible idea for the Vikings.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to the O-line. That's been a priority for the Vikings to sort of rebuild that. Sounds like the Vikings may have signed a center and a guard. So get us up to speed on that.
Yeah, Ryan Kelly, he came over from the Indianapolis Colts. I don't know how to say the guard's last name yet. I don't know if it's Will Fries or Will Fries. I'm going to have to say it's Will Fries. I've been seeing a lot of Fry comments on social media.
Okay.
But both of these guys are really, really good in the run game and in the passing game. That's something where the Vikings struggled in the most recent years, especially last year in the playoffs versus the Rams. So I think shoring up that offensive line, you got Ryan Kelly, a former All-Pro center, former Pro Bowler. Same thing with Will Fries. You look at their PFF football rankings from the past couple of years, they're one of the best interior linemen that you could go get in regards to the center and the guard position. So I think the Vikings and Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah hit a home run with those two signings. I still think they need to bring in someone else to play left guard or give some competition to Ed Ingram and Blake Brandell. I think just revamping that whole entire offensive line and going with all new starters on the interior piece would be good for this team. So still questions to see who they bring in at left guard or if they bring in some competition for Brandell and Ingram. But as of right now, this offensive line is 10 times better with Will Fries and Ryan Kelly at center and right guard with Christian Darrisaw and Brian O'Neill.
Okay. Let's go to defense now. It sounds like the headliner here is Jonathan Allen. What's your take?
I've been watching him since he played football at the University of Alabama, and there's like these couple of clips when they were playing for a national championship, and he just looks possessed. I mean, it looked like a demon just took over from him. He's one of those guys that loves football. He's a football first guy. Used to watch a lot of ESPN documentaries when Nick Saban was the coach at Alabama, and Jonathan Allen will be one of those players. If the players were talking on the sideline while coach was talking, he will be the one to tell you shut up and listen to what the coach has to say. So he's like ball first, he's a leader first, so he's a great fit. He was a Walter Payton Man of the Year candidate, you know, with the Washington Commanders. He's someone who was very frustrated in Washington because he just wanted to win. He came out and said that 2 years ago. So I think he instantly upgrades this defensive line that's kind of been hurting since Dalvin Tomlinson left. And we all know Jerry Tillery did a pretty good job last year, Jihad Ward, but I think Jonathan Allen will be better than both of those guys. He certainly lost a step, but he's better than what the Vikings have on their roster right now. And then they also may bring in Jonathan Hargrave. He's expected to be released by the 49ers tomorrow. Another huge defensive tackle and a big addition for this defensive line if the Vikings can ink him to a new contract. So they'll certainly be able to stop the run next year with the guys up front.
Speaking of inking guys to a big contract, Byron Murphy Jr. locked up.
$22 million a year. I did not see that coming, honestly. But when you look at the cornerback market, it is what it is. You just have to pay these guys what they're worth. The market keeps going up every year for every position, it feels like, and you got to pay them what they're worth. Kind of like Will Fries getting that 5-year, $88 million. That's a lot of money for a guard, but that's still not top-tier money. So Kwesi Adofo-Mensah is getting some things worked out. Now, is Byron Murphy, he was a big addition for this team a couple of years ago. They were adamant about wanting to keep him because when you look at the cornerback roster right now or the secondaries, they are depleted. Dwight McGlothern, he was a rookie last year, didn't play a ton, only played at the end of the season. Mekhi Blackmon tore his ACL during training camp, so very little experience at the cornerback position right now. So it was huge for the Vikings to re-sign Byron Murphy Jr. I still think they're going to have to go out and draft somebody, or they're going to have to get another veteran to come in because Byron Murphy was kind of that number 2 corner outside of Stephon Gilmore last year. He wasn't forced to be the number 1. He was a year ago, and that's when the Vikings were getting torched when they had a Caleb Evans out there as well. So I still think they may bring in somebody, but Byron Murphy Jr., huge addition for this defense because he can play inside and outside. Yeah,
of course, when we said yes to Byron Murphy Jr., we had to say goodbye to Cam Bynum, which is tough for a lot of fans. Can you talk about that a little bit? And then also Harrison Smith, do we know his status yet? When will we hear, do you think?
So we'll start with Byron. We'll start with Cam Bynum. We kind of knew the writing was on the wall for him towards the end of this season. He was playing on a rookie contract last year, former 4th-round pick, and he was just doing a phenomenal job. Like, he showed up each and every day on tape for this team, and you just knew he was going to cash in during free agency. And the writing was on the wall when the team signed Theo Jackson to that 2-year, I think, $13 million deal. So you could kind of say, like, all right, we can't put so much money in Byron Murphy and Cam Bynum, you know, because we have so many other holes to fill defensively, especially with that defensive line like we just talked about. So Cam Bynum, it's going to be tough seeing him go. We're all going to hate seeing him play for the Colts next season, but I certainly think that Theo Jackson will be a good replacement. And I also think they only let Cam Bynum leave, like you said, Amy, if they're bringing back a guy like Harrison Smith. He's let it be known he wants to continue playing football. I had a chance to talk to him during the season, and I was like, dude, why are you still here? You have all this money, you have all these accolades, your resume is just, it's super long. And he was like, the answer is simple, Lamont. He was like, I love football. And he was like, right now, like, you can't get the camaraderie or the brotherhood anywhere else. He was like, it's just simple. Football is what I love to do, and as long as I'm able to do it, I'm going to keep doing it. And I think we saw last season he was able to play at a high level, and I think he's itching to come back because he loves being around his brothers. And I'm certain that he'll probably take a team-friendly deal because I don't see him wanting to pack up his family and move away from Minnesota and start somewhere fresh, you know, in year, I think, 14 it is for him.
Yeah, and he was willing to you know, renegotiate his contract and really was there for the team. Just real quick, I saw, I don't know if you saw the same thing, and I can't even remember the source, but they were talking about based on all of the moves here thus far, it looks like our division for next season is going to go Detroit, number 1, Packers to Chicago, and then Minnesota. What do you think?
You know, I just think the whole NFC North is going to be like a powerhouse, kind of like they were last year, and I think they're going to be better than they were last year, because I think all these teams have improved their trenches, offensively and defensively. I was just talking trash to my buddy who's an Eagles fan, and he's like, look, I was like, you guys got a lot of depth leaving right now. He's like, yeah, you said all that a couple of years ago, and we went back and won the Super Bowl. And I said, look, I think the NFC North is the league to be messed with right now. Like, this is going to be some of the best football teams around. Do I think the Vikings will be fourth in the NFC North? Absolutely not, especially not with their defense that they're, revamping right now. And then you bring in, JJ McCarthy with all these weapons around him. So I think it's going to be a toss-up, but I think it's going to be competitive, and I think the NFC North will have 4 10-win teams next season.
Okay, got about 30 seconds left. First of all, you need new friends, okay? I'm just saying. Eagles fans... Sorry, no offense.
Tell me about it.
Right. Okay, and then I just really quickly grade Kwesi's cooking skills here. What do you think?
Oh, he's cooking right now. He's at a B+ for sure, but he has to keep going. He has to keep going because there's still holes on this team, so he has to fill some of those voids. But right now, he's cooking, so he gets a B+.
Ooh, love it. All right. Thank you, Ahmad. Appreciate it. Maybe we can hopefully check back in with you next hour. There's just so much going on. Who knows what's going to happen between now and then? So
you never know. You got to keep those phones volumes up right now with everything going on in the sports world.
Make sure X doesn't go back down today. We got to make sure it's still
yes.
Going. All right, Ahmad. Appreciate you. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
All righty.
All right.